This is just a quick video about 5 games that I saw on Game Pass, 3 of which are leaving soon and 2 of which are rather new to the service that I figured I would spend a couple hours playing each one. This isn't a deep dive, this is just kind of first impressions. What does it feel like to play each of these games? See if they're worth checking out and just give you my first impressions of them. I subscribe to both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, so I have an abundance of games that I never have enough time to play. So often I'm encouraged to play one when it joins the leaving soon list, and so I have a couple of weeks to try it out to see if it's something I might be interested in. So first up, these games that are leaving soon, the first of which I'm going to go with is Prodeus. I knew nothing about Prodeus, which I think I'm saying correctly, when it said it was leaving Game Pass soon, and the reviews, it was 5 out of 5 stars on Xbox. I was like, what? All right, let's just see what it is. And I can totally see why. It is pure, unadulterated fun. Prodeus is essentially a remake of Doom. And I'm not talking about like Doom and Doom Eternal remakes. I'm talking about like they remade Doom. And I remember playing Doom back when I was a teenager on my 486 50 megahertz computer. I had to run it off a boot disk because it only had like 4 megabytes of RAM or whatever. So Doom was, I remember that was like a revolution. It was hilarious when like everybody exploded, and made Doom or Doom 2 when like the eyeball fell down. So it just creates a sense of instant nostalgia when you load it up. It feels exactly like we think that felt, because I'm sure that it feels way better. There's much more modern gameplay. It feels more modern than I'm sure what playing regular Doom would feel like now. But in our heads, I think that's what it feels like. It's super fast. There's monsters everywhere. There's a rad metal soundtrack. Like everything's just really fun and cranked up to fun. Fun, fun, fun. I talk about games as if they're how good they are, how fun they are, and if they value your time. And I think this game is the fun capital. It's just rad. It's a game that you just load into and you know what to do. You just go do it. There's not a lot of thinking. There's like, I mean, there's a narrative, I guess, but like, it doesn't really matter. Like, just go in and just start shooting stuff and have a good time. How Long to Beat says the game takes like, 7 hours. Like, it's a quick campaign. But if you're looking to have some just fun, old school shooter action, this game could scratch that itch pretty well. On the complete other end of the intensity spectrum is our next game. Next is a game that's also leaving Game Pass that has 5 out of 5 stars on Xbox. It's called Beacon Pines, and it is beautifully wrought. It feels totally unique to me. There may be many other games that have this style or this gameplay mechanic that I've never played, that I just have missed. But this one is really beautifully rendered. The art is gorgeous. The voice acting is really compelling. And it feels like the story's going to go somewhere interesting. The conceit of the game is it's kind of retelling like this storybook, like a picture book experience. So all of the art evokes that kind of genre, like a children's book, but it's dealing with some heavy themes very clearly right away. The aesthetic is just going to, I think, help kind of bridge that gap and kind of create something powerful, just like kind of playing Braid or something else like that. It has an interesting mechanic where these branching storylines happen, where you make a choice of what word you want to go into a specific place. And as a writer, I really dig like kind of playing with the nuance of language and how it affects everything after that. But you could go back and change those branches on the tree to create a different story or something like that. So this is definitely something that I will probably finish. It says it takes about 5 hours to finish the main story. This seems like a perfect game to chill out and play, but still get something from. So not kind of just like forget about the world and everything, but kind of just relax and experience some themes and some storytelling that might impact me on a different level. So this is a very cool game, very different gameplay, and I'd be super interested to see other games like it, but I definitely am going to get through this one first. And the last game that is leaving Game Pass soon that I chose to play is Weird West. This game had actually been on my radar since it first joined Game Pass. I had it downloaded on my PC. It's a super compelling game. It isn't like everything I've ever played, which is very fun. It's a top-down ARPG, but it's WASD movement, so it's not click to move, and you hold right click to aim, or you hold left trigger to aim, and so you have to actually aim your stuff sort of like a twin stick shooter, kind of like the Ascent, I think, but I think plays much more smoothly than the Ascent did if you played that game. And the aesthetic is super cool. It's got this like cell shaded style, and it's dark and got some weird, I mean, it's in the title, Weird West, so it's going to be weird, but it sort of looks like one of those top-down turn-based games, like Hard West, I think is one, like, and you could understand why you would be confused. And then there's Evil West, like there's all kinds of Wests, but this one is pretty compelling. There are some fun mechanics in the game that sort of feel like Divinity Original Sin 2 type of stuff, but happening in real time. So like knocking over oil and catching it on fire and burning all the enemies, but everything's action. So it's an action based. There's dodges and jumps and all of that. Super interesting game. Something that I definitely regret having installed and missed playing, especially now that it's leaving. So now that it's leaving, I'm like, dang it, I do wish I could play this game, but there's so many good games out right now that I don't know that I can commit the time to it. But it's definitely compelling and interesting. I don't know that I'm going to be able to beat it before it leaves Game Pass, and I don't know that I would buy it, but I am compelled about this game. It's just not a game that I'm not going to play forever right now, but I don't know. So your mileage may vary. Look at the footage and decide if you want to play it, but it just doesn't play like it looks like it plays. That's kind of how I would describe it. All right, so now let's talk about some games that have recently come to Game Pass. So the first is Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars seems like it's clearly trying to market itself as the spiritual successor to one of the greatest games of all time, Chrono Trigger. One of my favorite games ever. It occupied my favorite game ever for 20-something years. So I love Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger, I think, is a masterpiece that has legs, that is still fun to play. I've played recently. Sea of Stars has essentially lifted those aesthetics and the feel of that game to try to create something that just reminds you of Chrono Trigger, and maybe you'd be interested enough to play it. And I certainly was. The game is gorgeous. The music is gorgeous. I think that the gameplay will be fun as you develop and get to know the characters and get to know your skills and stuff. I think that Sea of Stars is a game that I could really come to love. However, I think it could be hampered by the fact that it seems like it's trying to just so clearly borrow from Chrono Trigger that the whole time I would just be thinking, man, I should play Chrono Trigger again. Because I know Chrono Trigger is good, and I don't know whether or not the story after 20 or 30 hours of the Sea of Stars is going to be as good. Now, it might be, and it might be worth the journey, but I know Chrono Trigger is. And so it's a tricky thing, because the game did its job. It pulled you in. It said, hey, do you like Chrono Trigger? Check this out. This is like that. I think that works. That pulled me in. But it has to go somewhere with that. And I'm not sure yet if it does. It may. It really might. And the other problem is that it dropped when so many good games were coming out, with Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, and now the update to Cyberpunk, and then upcoming games right around the horizon. Spider-Man's right around the corner. It's hard to carve out the time to play it. It's a game that'll be on my radar pretty much as long as it lasts. And it's on both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, so as long as it stays on one of them, I will be able to play this game at some point, and I will hopefully do a more in-depth review. At this point, it's certainly interested me. It's just not grabbing me and saying, hey, play me instead of these other games. But that doesn't mean it's not great. It's just something that I'm not committed to right now, and I'm going to play eventually. But if you're somebody who just loves JRPGs and loves the art style and wants to experience something quite akin to Chrono Trigger, this might just scratch that itch. And finally today I want to talk about Lies of P. Now let me start with this. I have never played a Souls game. They terrify me. I've played and beaten Remnant from the Ashes that I played co-op with my buddy. I've played Jedi Fallen Order, which is Souls light because there's the difficulty settings anyway. And I have played like the first level and a half of Bloodborne, which Bloodborne is super compelling. Lies of P interested me because, as with Bloodborne, the aesthetic was unbelievable. And I think that's what they nailed right out of the gate. This game is beautiful. The graphics look gorgeous, the performance is great, and the sort of characters are so cool. The art design is just rad. It's developed by NeoWiz, and they very clearly said, hey, we're just going to borrow the formula of a Souls game and build our own, and we're going to do a good job of it. Like, that's absolutely true. Whether or not you appropriate a game is a weird thing. On this list of 5 games, 3 of them are absolute, carbon copy isn't the right word, but like they've borrowed everything from the original game. Prodeus with Doom, and Sea of Stars with Chrono Trigger, and Lies of P with the Souls games. This, like, down to the aesthetic of the UI, the gameplay, all of that is borrowed. So I don't know that that makes it better or worse, but it's certainly interesting. I committed myself to at least getting through the first level in Lies of P. I wanted to beat that first boss. I was reading posts that like some people weren't even getting through that. It's like, I need to get through that. And I did. And I already did experience in one level the sense of satisfaction that all the Souls players will always tell you about that you have when you do finally beat that boss. You have to learn the mechanics. And the first couple of times you just get crushed, and then eventually you get it. And then when you beat it, you go, yay, like you feel really good because you did it. For that to work, though, the combat has to feel fair, the controls have to feel responsive, and the animations have to be crystal clear. When a parry window is super tight, the animation has to be crystal clear. Now, I initially struggled because I was feeling like the controls were sluggish. And I was going to put that in my response. Like, I thought these games are supposed to have this really great control that, like, everything feels fair. If you die, it's because you messed up. And I wasn't feeling it. I was feeling like my dodge was sluggish. I was feeling like my movement and my attacks were sluggish. Now, as I played a little bit more, what I realized was that it's not that the controls were sluggish or the animations were sluggish. It was that the game makes you make a choice. If you attack, you can't dodge. You have to wait until your attack is over. And so it makes you really deliberate about how you use your skills. And there's a stamina bar as well, so you have to pay attention to that. But it is actually pretty compelling knowing that, like, you can't just mash your way or dodge your way like you can in certain other action RPGs, which are fun games and the combat can be really fun. This is much more tactical. That said, I always value games based on if they value your time, and I don't know if Souls games ultimately do. I think they're designed to punish you. Every time you need to heal, you respawn every enemy in the joint. It just makes it tough to feel like it's valuing your time. Because then you rush through, you're trying to get through, and then you make mistakes, and you have less health again, and you kind of repeat the cycle. Also, it adds things that I just don't understand in terms of valuing your time. I don't understand how games do this, where, like, you can't pause it, really. Like, you go to your menu, and, like, it's still alive. Like, dude, just let me pause the game. If I need to get up and deal with something in my house, let me just pause the game. I'll get back to it being hard in just a second. Let me pause it. People have lives, man. The other thing that I don't love, I was frustrated, though, that they kept trying to do cheap things. Again, the things that we're constantly told about Souls games is that it's fair. You feel like it's fair. And this game repeatedly, even in just 2 levels that I've played, had enemies that are just hiding behind a little wall to just quick attack you right away. I get, like, in horror games, you have to set that up so that there's, like, a sense of tension or whatever, but it just feels cheap. And when I talk about it not valuing your time, that's sort of what I mean. I don't mind that it's challenging. I mind that it's cheap. I also didn't love that I felt like repeatedly I was just walking through levels and only thing I'm hearing is my own footsteps. It felt like kind of a missed opportunity to create some more world building, have some interesting music, or something else going on to kind of create a world that kind of pulled me in. All of that said, the story is super interesting, really dark, but very cool. The graphics are gorgeous, and I'm not done with it. I felt like I was going to play for 2 levels. Like I said, I was going to commit. I'm going to commit, and then I'm going to be done. But I don't think I'm done. I think I'm interested in the game. I think I'm interested in playing it. Again, I have some more other games that I want to kind of get into a little bit more first. But if you like Souls games, I don't think you could miss out by playing this. I think it's a fun appropriation of those mechanics. I think you would have fun, and the game itself is well-designed, beautifully rendered, and strong performance. So I think all of that would be good if you're a Souls player. This would be a perfect pickup. It's nothing that will change your mind about Souls games. It's not like Elden Ring, which had a little more accessible type of Souls experience. This is the Souls experience. It's linear. You have to learn how to beat all those mobs as you work your way to the bosses, and the bosses will crush you over and over, and then you'll try and rush through, and the mobs will hurt you. That experience is consistent, but not bad. And if you like these kind of games, I definitely would recommend it to you. So that's just some quick notes on these 5 games. I was looking for a break after playing such big games. I'm still in Baldur's Gate 3. I finished Starfield, but I'm still playing it because there's still so much to do, and I'm ready to get back into the world of Cyberpunk as the DLC is coming out next week. But these 5 games were a great break from that, and they could definitely be the next game that you want to play depending on the genre, and there's a wide range of genre of the games I looked at today. Anyway, thanks.